gotta make food or I'll pass out. I'm diabetic. I use that now. I've got to get a blowjob because I'm diabetic. Isn't that supposed to be important for that? It is. That works. I don't see it. She keeps saying she sent it to me. You know, I gotta whack this out, I think. Oh no. Wait, no, I don't. Nope. I don't think so. Oh wait, here it is. Cleaned and flossed. It's not gonna be dirty enough for me. Oh, it's not bad. You ready? This is a woman I spent 5,000 miles with 4,000, and all she could say was, "Put it in my mouth." Put it in my mouth. What do you think she meant? It's a private picture. You know what I mean? I said, "Send me something that's perfumed." It's cool. She's very talented. But I don't know. It's just a private picture. We'll have to see once it hits the airwaves. So I am very much into cooking and this sort of thing. And yesterday I made you coffee, remember? And today I'm making, and you can have some peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But it's not just peanut butter and jelly. It's much more than that. I thought I took it already out. Lost it in the kitchen. No surprise there, right? Some dates right from my tree. They're really good. They're good. They're good cold. Can I just get to my my bread, peanut butter and jelly, plum jam, plum spread. Whoa! And I'm diabetic, so I have to watch what I eat. I'm not like you, I didn't have bacon today. One time, I had a party here, and some guy starts with an N and ends with an O, was fucking a cage fighter on my couch. I said, man, you can't fuck a girl on my couch. My kids come around. Never talked to him again. And I certainly never talked to the cage fighter. She wasn't my type. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, you're not here, so I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to myself. This is more like Philip Glass than we expected. That part. Wow! Let's not make a mess. No, seriously. And I cook at home, and I go out for most of my meal. It's a double whammy. And my daughter, who was raised a Jew, it's not a political thing, went to church today. Give it up. I mean, oh, this is kind of weird. Here we go. Caprice. Hey, can that be on film? And can this conversation be on film? Wait, let me put it on speaker. So I was just telling him how you used to text me saying, put it in your mouth. What did that mean?
What in your mouth?
You would text me saying, I want it in my mouth. What did that mean?
My mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah, in my mouth.
Lift it up. Elevate the conversation. Make it louder. Can you be louder?
Yeah.
What do you mean by put it in your mouth? It'd be better if you had a video that could run. She sent me the coolest video today. She's so talented. I was raised in Westchester, very close to Sing Sing. And in Sing Sing, you could order through the mail armpit hairs for wigs, pit wig. They were called pit wigs, and so you could order a pit wig. This happens to be a merkin, and I got this from Amy, one of my students. At she was a master's student when I was in San Francisco. Every student I've ever had that was like, one-on-one, I'd first take them to a dungeon. I don't know why, it just rang. It made sense, And I took her to a dungeon. Anyway. But then she took me to Jumbo's clown room, so even Steven, The thing that people don't understand is that I shoot everything. From Debbie Harry to CBGBs to the Dead Boys to girly stuff. I was particularly successful photographing girly stuff, and I linked up with Tashin, who saw some of my work in Paris. And his books, his first book I did with him, Fetish Girls, changed my life, and I think it changed his company also. It did extremely well. So let me take you on a tour that there's nothing is prearranged, so you may not see Debbie Harry, you may not see the Dead Boys, but you might. This is a picture of mine. And this woman, I ran into her again in Dark Garden, San Francisco, the corset makers. And she said, "Hi, Eric." And I said, "Do I know you?" She said, "Yeah, you shot me." I said, "I don't remember." She said, "I sat on your face." But she would change all the time. You never knew what she might look like. Here's a Picasso, no big deal. An original signed Picasso, no big deal. Here's a picture of Leslie. I took this photograph. Let me just turn the light on. I thought there was a second switch here, but I don't see it. Let me just turn the light on. Here's Leslie on her graduation day in the Fun Gallery, Patty Astor's Fun Gallery, the most famous downtown Lower East Side gallery, in front of a Kenny Scharf painting. Let's go into the guest bathroom, which is now not for guests. Here's an early Kroll picture that was in some exhibition in Europe, and my studio assistant, Honor Noel, because it couldn't be a nude woman, she painted vintage bra and panties over her body. But for this photograph, I called again Dark Garden in San Francisco when I first moved there for my first studio, and I said, "Hey man, do you know someone who could install a woman in this closet that I had gotten?" And he said, "No problem." So I'll show you the guy, he's over there. He figured out how to do it. And this woman was a friend of Margaret Show. Margaret Show? Is that her name? Margaret Show. And so this woman came to the studio and we did this fabulous picture. Totally successful. Here are my kids, Leah and Willa. Here's a very rare piece by Elmer Batters, who I did a book on for Tashin. I used to do these books before I became employed by him, where I would edit books before I became an employee. And we did a lot of books. They were cool books. And so this is a guy I discovered here, which is ironic. I found Moline of Tucson in Tucson. So this is probably my most important discovery right here in my own town. Think about that. Usually I go like to LA or to Europe or something, and here I find a guy that's killing it. Of course, he's dead, so not only can't he kill it anymore, but that's whatever. So this is an interesting piece. I could take it off the wall, or I could turn the light on. This was in Art Direction magazine. I was the upcoming photographer, and later on I did the cover of it. This is in 1971, and I was so excited to have the cover, which we'll run across, I'm sure, that I reached over to thank him. I knocked a cup of coffee over all the artwork. And this is before it was digital. It was fucked up. Here's a bunch of fabulous chaps that women will put on. I think that one of the things that differs from everyone else is that I really am aware of trying to make the most stylized photograph possible. I'm totally aware of vintage stuff. My initial fuck was with a woman who wore vintage girdles and a beehive hairdo in Pacific Palisades. Jane, how are you? Can I find you anywhere ever again? I don't know. I have a huge collection of erotic, vintage girdles and etc. And it's cool. And here's John Sex, the great performer from the Lower East Side, who's passed away, but he's cool. I think he was just in Club 57. The show is right now in the Museum of Modern Art by Ann Magnuson. All those people were people I knew and photographed, you know. And this is a book that Caprice was crazy about, and she wanted to own it. And I said, sorry, this is a collection, and it can't go anywhere. It has one body of work that'll hopefully be put in a museum or etc. someday. So here's Tina Russell. I took this picture of Tina, the porn star. She went to sign up. I'll take it down. I don't think so, man. Too much work to put it back up. But it is a good picture. I shot this on my studio in Manhattan, and she, as you can see, she was slashed by a what would they be called, a mugger, who would slash a beautiful woman. And I did this portrait, which I particularly like. And anyway, right below this photograph was this woman. It's an original, very early 1900s portrait of somebody. But I have an insane amount of shit I collect. My basic principle is to collect. Now, I'll tell this story. A dear friend of mine died, or no, he was told he's gonna die. And I had bought a complete preacher's outfit in Rome. You know, the hat, the whole deal. And when I heard that he had terminal cancer and was gonna die, I got this, and I put porn in it. I took the Bible out and I put porn in it. And I went to the hospital fully garbed as a preacher to give last rites to my friend. And he knew, and his wife knew it, but nobody else in the room knew it. This guy walks in, all preachered out, and shakes his hand, and it's a beautiful image of me shaking his hand. Anyway, that was cool. Wait a minute. There's more. Whoa! There's more. I used to spend a lot of time in Motel 6. I'm not doing it anymore. I know how to check for bed bugs, and I have never found any, but I'm not doing Motel 6 anymore. Who did this picture? Eric, the filmmaker. Who did it? Whose work is that? Come on. You know him really well. Come on. Who is it? Steve Diagetti. Where was it shot? Right here. Right here. I'm all about promoting and championing my friends who I think are such good photographers, like Dave Nass and his wife Ori Small, the great writer, drawer, artist. So this is an interesting wall. For one thing, we have what I was speaking of before, these very rare girdles. I think I got this one in Asheville, North Carolina. Hard to find this sucker. Let's just see what could be behind this wall. I bet there'll be something interesting. Oh yeah. Here is an original John Willie calendar. Fuck me, man, it's so rare. It's not even funny, okay? Look, I mean, look at this fetish stuff. Now this woman's still going, Terry Martine. She's still selling her stuff on eBay. This is an early Bill Ward drawing, who I did a book on. This is a letter from Bunny Yeager, the great beach bunny photographer who I represented. That's not how you spell whips, in case you didn't know it, but it's cool. This is some cool, my feeling is collect everything and then worry about it later. So this is these fabulous sexploitation newspapers that I would buy over on 39th Street in Manhattan. I just buy them. Here's my friends Whitney Ward and Joe Coleman, the artist. Here's some more. Whitney Ward, Joe Coleman. I see them whenever we're in the same town together. She's a fabulous photographer. He is, of course, the painter who painted detailed portraits of mass murderers. And his portrait of Whitney, I'm very pleased to say. And let's see what else is here. Everything's here. It's all here. It's all here for the taking. Let's see. Here's Edie Sedgwick, a really rare portrait by, I know this guy, Nat Finkelstein. A cool piece. This is in the opening, this image is in the opening scene of Suburbia with Eric Bogosian, and I took the picture. And it's something about get out of my uterus is the graffiti next to it. My philosophy is by mixing it up, by being random, by having chaos, interesting juxtapositions will occur. And I happen to like that. And I'm not into tightness. I mean, like the woman I see, Gail, the artist, if it's 12 o'clock, I can tell you exactly where she is. She's coming in to have lunch. Me, you have no fucking idea what's going on. And I like it that way. No fucking idea philosophy. This woman was killed by her boyfriend with a shotgun. And the only reason I know it is because Annie Sprinkle, who was a mutual friend of Mars, said, I wonder what happened to Athena. And she looked it up and the woman was blown away, unfortunately. This is Sex to Sexy, who not only do I love this stuff, but Mike Kelly loved it also. This is a piece of Mike Kelly's, of all these different Sex to Sexy magazines, down at the Miami Basel a couple of years ago. That, of course, is a cover of Satan magazine with Bettie Page, killer. And I own all these negatives. I have a million plus collection of erotica, original erotica from the 50s and 60s and 70s. I had a chance to buy it and I bought it. I buy everything and then worry about whether it's a good idea or not. That's why I'm broke. This is a cool, well, here's a good example. I made this image from a negative I own. Love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Did I say it enough times? I love it. But this is, just like insanity clause. So a woman will come here to be photographed and she can choose from a 24 joppers. Most people don't even know what a jopper is. Let's go there. Ready? Here we go. Into the land. This is supposedly the library. Hi. This is on Truro Beach. That's Rose. That's Libby of Sam and Libby. That's Julie Foster, the great top model of the 80s and 70s. We were all friends together. Okay, so now we'll go in here. It'll be cool. Here's some Dondi Pen images by Bunny Yeager that Richard Prince appropriated. And there she is in a magazine. So because I'm so familiar with the erotica of the 50s and 60s and 70s, I can tie it into the publications, which is kind of cool. This is another Moline piece. I have so many. There's another Moline piece. Now, here's a story for you. Ready? When my daughter Willa and Leah came to LA when I had a job in LA, Willa said immediately, you haven't made the place safe for me, because there was a cover image, or there's a photograph by Larry Clark of a girl jerking a guy off that was actually on the cover of Teenage Lust. So I felt terrible, and we talked about it, and she left. Years later, she came here. So this is before I Kroll-anized the place, and I tried to get all the erotica out. And this was a guest room, right? she leaves, and I realize I've forgotten to remove this one, which is, what's the title of it? Lynka. The Devil in the Blue. The Devil in the Blue dress attends a weenie roast, and that's her dad and her mom. You know, so you try, but you can't. You're never gonna get there. It's never gonna happen. A lot of work in this room. There's Dave Nass, bondage shot. There's a Charles Gatewood photograph of Fakir Mustafar. There is a Richard Kern of a nude right there. You know, the woman on her knees, Amy, who I also shot. That's a Bill Ward Conti. That's the cover, the album cover of Deep Throat. Kind of rare. It's my ex-mother-in-law, Jeannie. Cool woman. This is a photograph of a woman I took, and when I showed it to some people, they said, "Oh, that's a great title, I Love You." Do you know where it comes from? 1, 4, 3. 1 is I, 4 is love, 3 is you. That's Mike Bidlow's Marilyn Monroe. If you know about him, he is a very important Lower East Side artist, and New York artist, and his idea was, why buy a Andy Warhol when you can buy a Mike Bidlow for much less money? That's Larry Clark up there, called Brother and Sister on Acid, where the girl's tied up. That's Bob Coulter, where the girl is doing a line of coke with his Costco card, or somebody's Costco card. So there's a lot of important stuff here, and these are all files of negatives. You know, talking about from the 50s and 60s of erotica, softcore erotica. I have a lot of shit. So I have rooms and rooms of clothes for women to wear, and rooms of photographs. Here, let me just randomly take something down. I have no idea what's going to be in this, but I bet it's cool. Well, there you go. You know, that's kind of unusual bathing suit, you know what I'm talking about? Or this woman, look what's on this. Look at this one, okay? See that right there? See her? This is a woman she's accused of beating her husband to death. Interesting. Or this, the NRA. So these are all rare vintage photographs. Shitloads of them, you know? That's all I gotta say. And I'm this insane collector of what I think is really good material. And also there's also photographs by me in here, but yeah, anyway, they're cool. And this is all clothes that women can wear. Very important. Again, vintage. Insanely important. Women lose their mind for this piece. Are you kidding? Very rare piece. Her piece. But this is a nice picture by Roy Penny, since deceased, of a shrunken head being held by a woman. I represented him for years, and you go to his studio where he lived in Times Square area, and he said, "Please be aware that there are snakes, poisonous snakes, loose in this apartment." This was interesting for me, you know. You see the reels over there. This man came to me and he said, there had been an article written on me in the New York press about me being a collector, particularly a collector of Bettie Page stuff. And he said, "Do you want more Bettie Page?" And I said, "Yeah." So he lived in Times Square. He was an old man. And he started selling me these insanely cool Bettie Pages by Irving Klaw and others. Then I said, "Well, what's your deal?" He says, "I'm into women with long hair." So he turned me on to Stan's photos. This guy who made these photos in the 50s. And then after I bought everything I could buy from them, year after year after year, and we're still friends. I just got a Christmas card from him. He said, "Well, do you want some porn?" you know, some 8mm porn. I said, I don't think so. He said 10 cents each. I said, I think so. So I own reams of that stuff. And I don't know what I'll ever do with it. Hopefully it'll never catch on fire. But yeah, it's cool. It's totally cool. But it mixed in with all this stuff of girly stuff. There's Louis Frangella, who is featured in an exhibition in New York now of Lower East Side artists. And he was from Argentina, and he was a good friend of fellow artist David Wojnarowicz, who's probably the most important artist from the Lower East Side. And he's someone I shot the shit out of. Shot often. I mean, I did raise 2 kids, so I was around, but I was also gone a lot taking pictures. I have a huge erotica girly collection of magazines and stuff, but I also shoot women. There's a woman right there, Melanie King, the photographer. I've shot her for 12, 13 years and she's only 33 now. She saw a picture of mine, of me taking a shower with Helena, handcuffed to the shower railing in a rubber dress. Now let me show you some pictures of Helena. Come with me, please. Melanie saw a picture I'd done of Helena, who I was just with Caprice in San Rafael, and that's one picture of Helena that I was told by Richard Kern's internet girlfriend that has gone viral. And I have seen a lot of it. She with the 4 breasts is called Helena is Special. Anyway, so here's another Helena shot. I mean, she was one of these women that men dream of. You know, she was 6 feet plus with the most interesting body, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, she's still in my life. This is a very important piece to me. It's a half boot, which they made because there was not enough leather to make a full boot. And it's just a rare, so I love this piece, and women look great in it. Here's some, this is nice. You got the camera going? What's in here, do you think, Eric? A snake? A bullwhip? No, clown shoes. Very important. I'm represented by the best gallery in town, Etherton Gallery, Terry Etherton Gallery, which is known for its photographies. People he represents like Danny Lyon, but also painters like Gail Orland. But I, besides that, show my work in the garage. It's very important. So that's this woman over there, this Russian woman. Should I hold it up or you see it? This Russian woman wanted to be photographed, but she wouldn't do news, and I said, I don't think that's going to be a problem. And I did this image of her smoking a cigarette, which it's very common now, but back then, it wasn't so common. Or this image of Felice and another woman sharing a pair of sewn together panties. And Felice was hugely important in my life, still is. We still see each other. I saw her recently in Oakland, but she was the subject of 2 books I did, and many images in the book Beauty Parade by Taschen. But we lived on and off together for 8 years, and she was hugely important in San Francisco. That's this girl right here. You know this book, Sun? Sun Also Rises? This book sold 300,000 copies, which was unheard of. There's that girl again, Melanie King, that you saw the picture of underneath all the still photos. That's the first shoot, maybe the first shoot we did together. And here's this absolutely beautiful young woman who says, I want you to photograph me. And we've been shooting together, as I said, for over 12 years. And let's see, here's my wife, ex-wife, ex-wife. It's called Move Over Maryland because it's, you know, her 9 months pregnant, and the Move Over Maryland is M-O-M, mom. Here. Here's Balanchine, the great choreographer for the New York City Ballet. You see that one right there below Greer Langton? Right there. See the man with his hands in his pocket? That's Kenneth Anger, the filmmaker for Scorpio Rising, to the right there. To the right of the blonde. Before I got involved in girly, well, the first book I did was Sex Objects. It was a look at American roadside sex. It was partially funded by a New York State Council of the Arts grant. Senator Marcy attacked it for being pornographic. It was not in any way. But it now sells for $650 on the internet. It is hugely considered collectible. After that, I went into photographing artists. So I have these journals, and this is like, for example, Chamberlain, you know, the sculptor, John Chamberlain's warehouse down in Florida. And in that room in there are dozens and dozens of books, journals, and this is a Futura signature thing. And Zwykoff filmed parts of Crumb in my studio, and this is a Richard Mock, the great artist. They're quite important documents. Ann Magnuson piece. I mean, they're all in here, all from all the artists that I shot in the 80s are represented here. It's kind of valuable. But if you went in there, you get an idea of what that was all about, you know, and it's kind of cool to see that row of journals. And this is a laundromat. By the way, here's some Dave Nass work he gave me. He borrowed these panties, these girdle panties, and the photographs he made with them are in there. The diapers. So, here are the journals. 10 years, let's say, in New York City. I collect menus all over I travel, I'm a road dude. I'm on the road all the time just to find shit for my collection and to get clothes and stuff. So, this is my laminated work, girly work. Here's some Chaz Ray Kreider originals. I edited his book. And I like these because these are all like family swingers, three-way family, horny willing daughter, my red hot mom, naked wild family, hot and naked daughters. It's all family related. Really rank porn, very important. Here's a Russ Meyer still photograph. Pretty valuable, I think. I don't know. Here's the Tap room. You went there, didn't you? Down in Miami, the great Haitian restaurant in Miami Beach. Here's my cover of Robert Mapplethorpe for Eye, Each Village Eye. You see it there? Do you have Dolan's? Do you already have a copy of Dolan's? Harry Bush and all. That's Suki Smith. It's on Instagram that follows you, I'm sure. We're still friends. This is the woman, Anna Noel, that drew in the vintage underwear in that piece. That's Anna Noel also. This supposedly was used by, what's his name when he made Batman? That's what they based the outfit for Michelle Pfeiffer on. Peanut butter? So I don't want you thinking I'm dead and done. I just took this last month, and I asked the woman to get in the pool and suck off John Holmes, the blow-up doll I had. And a lot of people want this. A lot of people want to own it. It's cool. Good shot. Here's a nice picture of this famous Keith Haring, Kenny Sharp, Andy Warhol, Kenny's wife and child in the Sharp mobile. Here's a nice picture of that woman, Melanie, sucking off an agave. I took my 16-year-old nephew, Adam, out to the desert at 6 a.m. I said, what about putting this cock in your pants? You know, Calvin Klein cock jeans. Pretty successful photograph, I think. Well, if you deal with work, like this is a picture way over there of Bettie Page by Peter Bosch. If you sink yourself into one field, which happens to be pinup work for me, and I think pinup work can be really interesting. It was only through studying the various small books from the 50s I realized he had shot Bettie Page. He had no idea he had shot Bettie Page, and he had. There's a picture in there that he took of Salvador Dali, the same fellow. Oh, is that true? Peter Bosch? Maybe not. But Peter Bosch shot a lot of famous Hollywood types. But he didn't realize he had shot Bettie Page because she was out of the loop until later, till after me. I don't call it hoarding. I use everything I own. I have poor eyesight towards dark, so I put it all out. I had things in storage. I said, fuck that. My kids are fully grown, they're gone. And I don't really care about having guests here. You know, I don't, unless it's a girl, she can sleep on my face. So I bring everything out of storage so I can actually see it, look at it, react to it, deal with it, make other images from it. So, I mean, that if you hand me that photograph, Mr. Cameraman, you'll see how it used to look before I Krollinized it. You see that chair right there? That's where we are. Hello. And this girl, you can see she's ready for some sort of action with a dental dam over her pussy. I don't know what that means. I have no idea. But I'm just saying that I want everything. I want to look at everything I collected. I want to react to it. I want to do something with it. That's why you see everything the way it is. You call it hoarding. I don't really call it hoarding. Everything is here for a reason. And I hope to make another image from it, a third image from it. And I mean, how could I not own that, you know? That's as cool as it ever is going to get. And that's from a little old lady who had a store called Saguaro Books. Nobody went to it except me. And I bought and bought and bought. And you're talking about somebody who has no money. So it's all done through time, over time. all filled with hot pants, bathing suits. This has everything, shorts, bubble beehive outfits, bumblebee outfits, right? Bras. Let's look at the bra box. Yeah. Very proud of this. Also, I think, you know, you can drop samsonite from an airplane, so I'm not worried about it. But these are all bras. You know what I'm talking about? Very important. Very important. Look at this bra. Forget about it, right? I mean, is that a bra? It is. Or this one? Forget about it. Now, there is a video of my 5 or 6 year old going through 600 girdles that I bought from a retired transvestite in Hawaii. And I mentioned this to a stripper in Broadway. She looked at me and says, the guy in Hawaii? Because it's a small world. If you're into that world of vintage stuff, everybody knows everybody. This is the first book I did. I was really young, 77, so I was 31, 32. And I used to do industrial film strips all over the country. I was paid like $200 a day. But I would be still awake, you know, in Davenport, Iowa. So what am I gonna do? So I looked up ads in the paper, and there'd be a massage parlor or a nude model studio. So I started photographing the women, and that is, as you know, is on La Brea, off of La Brea. It's not there anymore, but it was cool when it was cool. And then, you know, I would shoot the models. That's in Washington, D.C. Had an affair with her. This is a transgender guy early on. And these are all interviews, and I didn't match them directly up with the images to protect the ladies. But the whole point of the book is that sex objects was a conundrum. They weren't really sex objects. They were to the men, but they themselves were just working. You know, instead of being a secretary, they could make more money in the 70s being a go-go dancer or a nude model. They're my shoes, by the way. I think they're my shoes over here somewhere. This is Barbara Butterfly, very notorious woman. I met her at Antioch, at that Yellow Springs or something, and I hope she's still alive. I'm not sure. This is the first woman I shot. My girlfriend Libby was at school at DU, and I looked at these pictures and I said, holy shit, looks like Joan of Arc, you know? And so I wrote her and said, hey, there's a gallery in Soho that would like to do an exhibition, and I want you to write the text. She waited a year to respond. By that time, they had lost interest, you know, and that's what happens. But they were, you know, these are pretty iconic images. I showed at Prism Gallery, PRISM Gallery on Sunset Strip, you know, fancy gallery. Mike Kelly showed there after me. I don't know. They were cool images because it was American Sweethearts available. Okay, that's that book. Then we skip ahead to a book I did recently from one of my collections. This guy's named John Keyser, and it's stuff I had bought. I lived in Silver Lake at the time and working for Taschen as a photo book editor, and I see on the telephone pole a handwritten sign that says vintage porn and antiques. It's exactly my world. So he became my neighbor and had these insanely interesting photographs where this photographer would have women sit on stuff, right? I don't, you know, it made me think, why didn't I ever think of that? Someone sitting on a Life magazine cover, right? So I was fairly brilliant. The guy was dead by the time I saw the work. He had lived in the neighborhood, and this other fellow had found all this. He was a serious dumpster diver. So I wrote the introduction. These are all photographs that I own, and the guy I was working with had the audacity, I think the word is, to go around me and buy the rest of the collection. So I just want to read a part of it that I think is pretty funny. In the epilogue. Epilogue, you've seen the fins. Wait until you see the headlights, meaning the front of the women. We had no model releases, so we used the butt parts. Perhaps someday you or your children will be exploring the upper floors of a museum and find a strange color photo of a woman's perfect butt on a serving of mashed potatoes and recall this book, Sittings. And you know this woman, because there were no model releases, I asked Melanie, the photographer model friend of mine for 12 years, to sit on a watermelon and look back at the camera rather perplexed, which is what I'm sure the women felt. And I actually wrote about that. I have sat with Brasai and spoke about photographing prostitutes and walked around the block with Andre Cortez discussing distorted nudes. So I know about a photographer's recognizable vision. John's work had its own distinctive style. It deals with sexual imagery, my field of expertise, and like videos by Korean artist Nam June Paik, a friend of mine, there is in John's photos a healthy dose of the absurd with a tinge of humor, all important elements to Duchamp, to Joseph Beuys, to Mike Kelly. Besides showing me a perspective on women I had missed, though I have photographed naked and near-naked women for over 4 decades, I can't help but wonder what was going through these women's minds when asked, for example, to sit bare-assed on a copy of Life magazine or having their butt cheeks over the arm of a living room sofa. Did they ask them questions about motivation? Like one might ask an acting coach from Lee Strasberg Studios? Did any of them say, quote, "Can I take the cherry pie home after we're finished?" unquote? Did any of these models get turned on sexually and ask for second sittings? Anyway, I mean, it's kind of wild that these women are sitting on mashed potatoes well, here we go. So, you know, you have this that is very artful and very different than, you know, what I had seen out there. Now, this guy's work is going for a lot of money. You can buy from me. Come with me to the Atom Room. I had such admiration for the women that appeared in Adam, because that's who I used to jerk off to, and eventually I started working for them when I got old enough. But in the meantime, I tried to collect all the covers. This is an interesting room with particularly things that I love. There's Larry Clark all fucked up on the cover of a magazine. There's Bunny Yeager taking a picture of one of my favorite women, Kim Winters. There's a Bill Ward a piece of his. That's William Coupon's photograph of Miles Davis, and below that a Serge Jacques photograph of Miles Davis with Giulio Franco when he did the soundtrack to Elevator to the Gallows. That's a Todd Hido of a woman that I brought to him. That's a really cool piece by Bill Ward. I know, and those are some of my work there. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff here. Oh, this is my darkroom door from my darkroom in New York City at 118 East 28th Street on Park Avenue. And that's just a bunch of photographs from, there's Crumb, the girls used in Crumb movie that was shot in my studio for the movie Crumb, Terry Schweikoff's piece. I don't know. There I am, having my balls crushed by a mistress. This woman is now following me on Instagram, and she was all bitchy about, because for this shot, Spencer Tunick, the photographer, and his brother assisted me, and I pointed that out to her when she reconnected with me on Instagram. She said, you know, you guys got to be famous, and no one remembers the models. And someone pointed out that no one remembers the photographer who shot the first nudes of Madonna. So it goes both ways. Definitely goes both ways. I don't know. There's some more mistresses pulling on my balls. There's a picture of my daughter and I'm cranking her up. That's a Irving Penn reproduction. That's a really beautiful photograph by the great photographer Peter Bosch, a classic nude of Bettie Page. But for example, he didn't know that that's who that woman was, and that woman was huge. Now, if you can tilt your camera up here, there's a very valuable, rare piece of a drawing by the Korean video artist Nam June Paik, and I brought that to him because I knew Nam June would never give me something that was actually recognizable, that it would be like so artful that no one would know what it was. And so I said, do a portrait, and he made the eyes using monitors. And if you follow me, can you follow me? I'll show you something. I have such admiration for the time I spent at working with Nam June Paik that I created in my bathroom what I shave by the light of Nam June Paik. And when these are all lit, it's kind of a nice piece, and there's enough light to shave by. This is my 40th birthday announcement where my wife is lighting the 40 candles that are embedded in my body. The special effects were done by the fellow she's married to now, Ron Courage, who's an old friend of mine, artist friend of mine. This is the house I grew up in Westchester. You could sneak a lot of girls in there, and I did. And the pool house was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You know, the glass pool house? That was the house, that was what I grew up in. That's how much I suffered. Where the Corvette goes out the back window. Here's a Shrunken Head again by Roy Penny. Here's a guy I met recently in the local St. Vincent's with a machine gun tattooed on his forehead, on his cheek. Here's a Kroll picture. Let me show you something that I think is interesting about me. I spent so many fucking years in the toxic darkroom that I can go to that wall, open that closet, and pull out an insane amount of work. Should we do that? You want to see Pee Wee Herman's portrait? While we're here. Pee Wee, say hello to the audience. There's your friend Melanie with her butt cheeks. See her over there on the left? So let's see. This is random. This has not been prepared. This is unprepared. All printed by me forevermore. Okay? So just random. Here we go. Random. Fucking random. So it could be, you know, skanky photographs or whatever, but I hope not, that I made back in the day. So I could just do a flip-flop. Honor Noel, who was also shot by Richard Kern. Honor Noel, Polaroid. I like this because it's a, I just sold it, a copy of it. It's a Polaroid negative made on a Hasselblad, so it's scarred up and cool, I think. Erica, Mistress Erica, in my studio in Park Avenue. Wendy in my studio in San Francisco. The great thing about Wendy was that I shot her at a porn casting for the guy who found Tracy Lords. And she was so real, the only one that was real. I asked to shoot her. And then I shot her in I don't know, the hotel, Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood. And I thought I'd never see her again. Then she moved to San Francisco, and she would come over and I'd have the camera running. She'd shoot herself. I could go out and do errands. She would just make videos of herself. This is Mistress Saki, not the best print I've ever seen. And Robert Flutie, the guy who produces a lot of events and actually in Los Angeles now. Let's see what this is. That was for Leg Show, for when Diane Hansen was the editor. This is in Power Exchange, and those are some of the tongs where you stimulate a woman or man with the tongs. Very dangerous. Power Exchange, LA, New York, San Francisco. This is in Flagstaff, a woman sleeping with her dildo. Very happy sleeping with her dildo. This is a woman that worked at my lab, new lab in San Francisco, but shot in the El Drisco. This is Frangella from Argentina. This is Jet Blue. People know her. This is on Instagram now, and they know the tattoo. This is Athena, who's no longer alive, killed by her boyfriend. Rope work by a guy named Richard Kern in a friend's apartment. This is the first day I shot. Wendy in the Roosevelt on Hollywood Boulevard. This is Panther with an upside down Toby. This is Ralph with a girl. This is an interesting shot because this woman, I was with a bunch of photographers in Flagstaff, Arizona, and they're all bitching about, there's no models in this town, there's nobody to shoot. And I turned to the waitress and I said, are you free tomorrow? And I made that image. And a number of images that are in Beauty Parade. Student. Never got fired, but should have been. I was living in Taos, New Mexico, just having graduated from college, University of Colorado, in cultural anthropology. And I wanted to make something that was a reflection of Man Ray, so I made a rayogram, or what I call a rayogram. This is a very early piece from 1969. And this piece, right here. I love this piece. This is Suki Smith from Instagram. We're still friends. This is called Summer Rental in a house I had in East Marion, Long Island. And there's in the paper, you know, the art, you know, the paper, the New York paper, the paper. And so that's that image from that. This is Felice, who I was insanely in love with, probably still am. We were together for 8 years. And, what's that picture? Oh, that was an interesting moment. There's Melanie again, great model. You know, sucking off some agave. Can't beat that with a stick. This is Vicky Kennedy, who was, as you know, from one of the James Bond movies. She was the gold girl, sprayed with gold. Here she is, a little overweight. Here she is, all boobs. There's more of her. You know, I admire her. So I'm a collector. I got it all. Here's the model release, probably here. Vicky Kennedy's model release. Hello, worth a lot of fucking money in the world of collecting, erotica, collecting, whatever. Here's my dad and George Tanier, the great Danish furniture dude. Billy Sewer, who, as you know, was the restorer at the Frick Museum. That's a typical dad party. Guy from the Frick, the guy Danish furniture importer. It was a very heady world that I grew up in, you know, and I mean, and that's my friend, by the way, Anton Parrish's work, who I dearly love. That's his magazine Night. And then beyond that is a photo that I asked for from my friend Chad Kreider, who I did. This is a photograph by Bob Coulter of Stoya, one of my favorite women of all time, who sort of yelled at me on the telephone because she and I were both right. I was editing a book on Steve Diagetti, and she wrote the intro, a part of the intro, and I had the nerve to suggest editing what she had written. She, you know, pretty much read me a new asshole. Let's just say you need to take a shower. Well, I don't want you just to waste your time on idle shit. So if you come with me, somehow, here's my friend Joe Coleman's painting illustration. There's my friend Robert Blue's painting of Bettie Page. He died, unfortunately. That's a piece on my wife called Kroll Blows the Apple, about me leaving New York for a year. Here's a woman that illustrated a blow-up doll. They couldn't afford to make the doll, so they used a woman to look like a doll instead of the other way around. It's kind of unique, right? There's Edmund Weston, original Edmund Weston made from the negative. When I was so young, I didn't realize that's what I was doing, so I laminated it. See the pepper? Fucker's probably worth a lot of money if I hadn't laminated it. You know what I mean? You can't laminate a Edmund Weston and get away with it. Here's an interesting piece. This is Linda Vargas, the Playboy model. Here she is on the cover. Here she is shot by original print by Peter Bosch. She is some cut up, edited contact sheets from Bunny Yeager. So I'm trying to keep together a sense of what this pinup art is all about. But here is a collectible in my mind. It's a book, it's a newspaper book that Eve Fowler did of her portraits of women on Polk Street. Fucking great piece. And the woman who I met her through said, "Oh, you guys will never get along. She's a militant gay woman, and she'll never talk to you." Blah 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 bullshit. We're still friends years later. Probably has something to do with how much I admire her work. Anyway, Eve Fowler. She's teaching somewhere, I think. Some days you wish you were just a monkey, you know? But some days you've evolved into the photographer.